And so once I started to understand the data within property, it really helped me to kind of make, better decisions. And I guess decisions that were not based on emotion, but just based on data. So getting into property, I think that really kind of helped me once I started to immerse myself in all things property. So.
Hello and welcome. You are listening to Dashdot Insider, the auditory epicenter for passionate property investors seeking a life of freedom, choice, and abundance. I'm your host, Ali Rolliston, and joining me today is a very special guest, Ben Munn. Thanks for joining me today, Ben. How are you?
I'm good, Ali. It's good to be here.
Awesome. I'm stoked to have you on. I'm really interested about your story. So why don't you kick us off? Tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Yeah, so a little bit about me. So I'm married and I've got two kids. So Sophie's 12 and Josh is 9. So been married for almost 17 years. My wife and I got married quite young. So I was 21, she was 22. I kind of decided I couldn't do any better, so I had to kind of lock her down. But so I had some friends tell me I was punching above my weight. So, so for me, married, kids, in family life. I work in the non-for-profit space. Got a big background in technology. I used to work at one of the big 4 banks big 2 banks in Melbourne, actually. It's got a little bit of red in the logo. But and then I kind of jumped out into the non-for-profit space because it's something I'm passionate about. So that's where I find myself now.
Interesting. Okay, so kind of what led you there? I mean, obviously that's a pretty big shift in your industry change. What led you from big corporate into the not-for-profit space?
Yeah, I think for me, and I think I was listening to another podcast that Goose had put out, just in regards to the when then, in regards to, I'm quite passionate about certain things in my life, and especially in the not-for-profit space where I am. I wanted to be able to do something that I enjoy doing and something I'm passionate about. And so I kind of made the decision, me and my wife, we both work at the same company, and that we wanted to do that. And so I guess the idea of investing in property was, really to try and help us to fulfill what we really enjoy doing in helping other people in their lives. So the shift was a hard one because you don't really get into the non-for-profit space for monetary gain. So, but, that's where we started talking about, okay, well, how do we ensure that we do what we want to do and we keep doing what we love, but how do we ensure that there's some financial freedom down the track to sustain us for the long term?
Okay. All right. Interesting. So you had your bigger corporate career, found that you weren't sort of entirely fulfilled, and then wanting to pursue that, sacrificed a bit of financial, and then you kind of decided that property was going to be your financial side and allowing you to sort of focus on what was passionate and sort of made you happy in life. So you kind of did both of them together, or maybe one even before the other. Property came afterwards. How did that come about?
Yeah, that's right. I think the more I've immersed myself in kind of the property journey and listened to podcasts, a lot of people talk about, investing in property to be able to create themselves a financially free life for them to be able to decide and do what they really want to do. I think we've probably taken the avenue of switching around the other way. So, deciding to do, hey, let's, everyone's got choices in life. Sometimes, they're forced on us, and most of the case, it's up to us. But we decided to make that choice, and kind of flipped it around the other way to do what we enjoy, but then, work out how we can, financially get forward. My role, I used to work in technology, and I was a product manager, a leader of a big analytics platform that we used to use within the bank to kind of help understand how better business decisions, understand technology and data. And so once I started to understand the data within property, it really helped me to kind of make, better decisions. And I guess decisions that were not based on emotion, but just based on data. So getting into property, I think that really kind of helped me once I started to immerse myself in all things property. So
yeah, by the sounds of it, definitely. So, all right. So property kind of came after you'd made this big decision. So did you have any property before you decided that you wanted to become an investor?
Yeah. So my wife and I at the time had our principal place of residence, which we still have, but we're renting at the moment. We decided to rent, closer to where we work, just to help with the travel. But we decided to keep our house just to see how that worked. But it wasn't really looking into property at the time. We were just kind of chatting about, look, how do we financially get ahead? How do we ensure that, we're doing what we love and we're sacrificing some of our salary and financial gain for that, and because we find purpose in it, we enjoy it. It's something that we do every day that we don't really see as work. But we've got 2 kids, they're at school, we've got the bills. Just trying to understand how can we financially, get ahead. And we started to look into property. It was probably more so me. My wife's a lot more risk adverse than what I am. She's kind of the saver, I'm the spender. And
want to be.
Started to just talk to some friends around property and how it works. And then we started to really get engaged with Dashdot, and then just started our journey. So it wasn't something I was really looking at doing at the time, but it was the idea of, hey, what can we do to get financially ahead? And we've got some family that have invested in property, and so we know the blessing, I guess, that's been and how that's worked for them. So then now we just really kind of started to explore the option of what property could do for us.
Awesome. I love this. Okay, so it sounds like you lived your corporate life, you had your kids, you sort of bought your home, you sort of ticked all the boxes, and then you completely changed. And I really love that you've done this backwards, because most people do it that other way. They sort of try to get there to then execute on their dreams, but you sort of did that first, and then decided property was the thing for you, the right one. You're obviously very data and analytics focused, which I think has probably helped you quite a lot in your property investment journey. So when you first started and you decided, okay, this is for us, we're going to become property investors, did you sort of have much of a plan and kind of go, we'll just get one, see how it goes? We want to get, because you have 3 now, don't you?
Yeah, correct. So it's been a pretty crazy journey. Yeah, in the last 12 months, we've just settled on our 3rd investment a couple of weeks ago, actually. So we've got 2 in our
congratulations.
Yeah, awesome. And 1 in our self-managed superfund, which has been a whole different thing in itself. But yeah, so at the moment, we're renting. But I would say the property journey, as I said before, I was probably all in. I'm like, okay, yep, let's do this. I understand the concepts and the data and how it all worked, but my wife is very, as I said, much risk adverse, and because I'm not an expert in that area, fair enough for her that she was really, questioning me as to whether this is really the right option. So we met with a good friend of ours who owns a mortgage broking business, which is also a non-for-profit business, and all those profits go back into community programs. And so she had the opportunity to ask him and say, hey, look, is my husband actually on the right track here? So he was able to, just reaffirm that, look, what we're trying to do in regards to leveraging property to create financial freedom, there's a lot of people doing it. And what we were trying to do was a good way ahead. I think for me, I'm a big strategist and a big planner. So for me, if I don't have a strategy or a plan, I won't really kind of jump into anything, because for me, and I think for a lot of people, you got to kind of keep the end in mind and know where you're heading. It's almost like, when you jump in the car and you're trying to go somewhere, you chuck it in Google Maps or, Apple Maps, and it helps you to kind of get where you need to be. But, the challenges is that, the same route you take one day might be a different route you take the next day because of traffic or whatever else. So even though you think you know where you're going, if you don't have, I guess a map or a plan as to how you get there, then it can be quite confusing. So that's where we had our property portfolio strategy that we've got put together to look at what we can do and what times. And obviously it's been quite aggressive. But I'm a big planner, and having that to start with, it gives you a bit of a torch in the dark for sure.
Sounds like you've really grown along the way. And you said it's only been a year, didn't you?
Yeah, 12 months pretty much. Yeah.
Wow, 12 months straight with me. That's incredible. Yeah. It does sound like, though, each step has sort of, given you more information and more insight and more confidence. And you mentioned before that, you were more all in and your wife was a little bit more hesitant. I find that's quite common for people. How did you sort of manage that? It sounds like you sort of slowly slowly educated her. And I guess from your experience watching her come from a place that was a little bit more cold and a little bit more nervous and conservative to where she is now and the success that you've sort of seen. How has it been sort of watching her evolve and any comments on that sort of experience or journey?
Yeah, so as I said, at the start, it was a bit interesting because I'm a bit of a go-getter at times. And so when I put my mind towards something, then I'll, generally run to it. I'll look at TED Talks, I'll look at YouTube clips, I'll listen to podcasts, whatever it may be. So she's a little bit more risk adverse, especially when I was talking about property. But I think the thing for us is really just leveraging off other people who have gone through the journey. So, I'm a big one on learning from other people's mistakes rather than learning from your own. So I think once we started chatting to people in our world who have invested in property, what did they do? How did it work? What are some of the things you would do, you wouldn't do? And then aligned to kind of what our approach was. Then that was a really good sounding board for myself as well as my wife to know that, okay, yeah, we're on the right track, and to really help kind of change the fixed mindset around, we should just really, save our money, work harder, maybe get another job, but look at how we can kind of work smarter rather than harder. So I think really just leveraging other people's experiences has really been something that's kind of helped us to then kind of get on the same page. And I'd say I'm probably still running ahead, but now she's starting to see the results. So there's a lot more, confidence in knowing that we're in the right direction.
Interesting. It sounds like she might have been conservative and a little bit more, nervous, but it sounds like she came at this with a lot of curiosity and a lot of open-mindedness to sort of learn and grow. And I think that's obviously helped you get on the same page. But I often say that, in property and in this investing journey, you need to be making these informed decisions along the way. But there's a moment where the light sort of goes off, and when you see the results where it all just kind of comes to fruition and reality, and everything you've been planning for and working for becomes true, it's a big light bulb moment. So it sounds like, the results have been something that's really been rewarding for her in this experience as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for both of us, it is an emotional journey as well. Because we were living in our own home and we raised our kids there and lots of memories. And then we decided to move and rent closer to where we work. And so that in itself, there was some emotions there. And then as we started to, buy different properties, then what would that mean if we could move back into our own home, and what were we kind of sacrificing for the long term? But I think, trying to take the emotions out of it as much as we can to kind of know where we're heading in the long term, I think is kind of helped us. Yeah.
Most certainly. It is an emotional journey. You're very right. And, as much as we try, we try to take the emotion out of this as property investors. But there's always fear associated with it. And, fear comes in at the beginning, and then you might suppress it and it goes away, but then it comes back and then you have to address it again. It is an up and down roller coaster. Something that I find really interesting about your story, Ben, is that you come from a background of technology and analytics and data. How would you say that's helped you in your journey manage that emotional roller coaster of becoming an investor and the journey that you've had so far? And I guess, combating that fear with the logic and the data.
Yeah. I think a lot of the time, we make decisions in life based off emotions, so depending on how you feel, what coffee you want to drink in the morning, what you want to have for lunch, all those kind of things. And so it's quite normal to operate out of emotion. But I think, the more and more I've immersed myself in property, the, different advice I've got is to try and take the emotion out of investing in property. And so, really what we want out of property is, numbers in the end. We want to be able to create financial freedom, which, is a monetary return. So whether those houses look like they're, mansions in Toorak, or whether they're, small little one-bedders in a country town, whatever it is, as long as in my mind, from an analytical background, then if the numbers stack up and helps us to get to that journey, then I don't really mind, what those houses look like or kind of where they're situated. And I think the thing about data is it doesn't lie. So, sometimes you can, like a facade on a house, it may look like it's awesome, but when you walk in it could be, needing some renovations or, not quite what you think. And so even with our journey in investing in property, we haven't even walked into the houses. We've seen them, we've gone through our due diligence with the team, and which have been great. but we haven't looked in those houses. We haven't been in them. We haven't been in the same suburb. It's all just been a kind of, I guess, a data-driven decision, which is hard because, you're putting your money, you're putting your investment, your time, your effort into these things. And that's the emotion. It's like, should you invest in this property? Should you make the decision? Should you not? So there is emotion that you need to deal with and handle. But I think coming back to it, just always having, okay, what's the end goal in mind? And allowing that to be the focus and go, okay, well, if the numbers work for us, then, let's make those decisions from there. And because of the background of data, I understand and, how to analyze, different information. So, I'm big on kind of trend analysis and understanding, okay, how the market's kind of performing and what key indicators. And so I think if, you have a good understanding of that, or even if you don't, you can leverage someone else that does. It makes it a lot easier to make an informed decision. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head too. It's about making an informed decision. I started this journey 15 years ago, and sometimes I look back at the data and tech that I had then, which was nothing. And they were pretty uninformed decisions. So that's incredible. Awesome. Okay, cool. So it sounds like, informed decisions has been a big driver in getting you to the success that you've seen so far, not just in the amount of properties that you've created in your portfolio, but, also potentially in the financial success. So let's come back to your property journey so far. So you started a year ago and you got your first property. Tell us a little bit about that and what your experience was like. And did you plan to sort of buy 3 in 12 months? Was that your original goal? Imagine your wife probably was a little bit scared at that point about that idea.
Yeah, so it's interesting. We were just on a holiday as a family a few weeks ago, just in the Gold Coast, and we're just reflecting on the last 12 months. It's been a really crazy journey, but a good one. And, it was kind of 12 months prior to that, the same thing. We were kind of on a holiday and we were working with the Dashdot team around, kind of purchasing that first property, which we've seen, some really, great results in, I think it's been a 20% capital growth in the first 12 months of that property in that Perth region. And then we didn't really, plan to kind of buy 3 in 12 months. I think it kind of just, we just kept assessing our situation as we went on. And, the third one is in a self-managed super fund. So it's a little bit of a different structure. But once we had the first one, then we went back to the broker and said, hey, look, what do you think we can do? And he said, look, depending on the price ranges, you might be able to buy a second one and then work with the team. And then we changed our plan. As I said before, plans can kind of change, but the end goal is the same. And so then we looked at, where do we kind of reinvest with what we can afford? And then, we went with the second property about a month ago.
How long after? What was the gap? 6 months, maybe?
It was probably, we bought the first one, and then there's probably about an 8 to 9 month gap between the second. And then the third was like a couple of weeks after that. So definitely been a good journey. Yeah.
Yeah, you've definitely, sounds like you've been building as you go, not just in your education, but also in your portfolio. Sort of.
Yeah. And I think as I've gone along, as I've learned more and I've understand more about the property journey and the different facets of it, it's then helped me to kind of make different decisions along the way. And so, as I said, the second kind of wasn't really planned, but then we just reworked the property plan that we had and worked within our means. And so now I think, we're next steps are, potentially looking at selling our principal place of residence and then which is another big decision in itself, a lot of emotions there where we raise the kids, and then look at, investing that in somewhere else that's got better growth to, keep driving that plan forward. So it's been a very aggressive one. But I think, that in the long term, hopefully our kids will thank us for it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It is really interesting, isn't it? Because hearing you talk and your story, you're definitely thinking outside the box and thinking about how you can get the things that you want and give back to the community in the way that you want to, but also protect your family and your future as well. So now selling the principal place of residence, that's a huge decision. I mean, a lot of people, I think, and I was one of them when I first started, get into property in order to have their own home. So to be at this stage in your journey now and think about being a bit more strategic with those finances, that's another big whole story and decision in itself. but certainly some exciting opportunity. Lots more emotion there, I'm sure. I guess one question I kind of have is, and this is probably leading on from that topic, how would you say that investing has changed your perspective on the future? Because the last 12 months has seen a lot of change for you and your family, and maybe now selling the principal place of residence. Is there any insight that you think this investment journey has given you to maybe see what is possible in your future? You're already giving back to your community in a very big way, but what does it look like?
Yeah, I think there was a two-pronged approach when it came to investing in property. One was to be able to help us in the medium to long term to continue to do what we want to do without having the financial constraint there. But the other one was really to set up, a legacy for our kids and for our family. So, growing up, my dad was driving trucks interstate and didn't see him very much and was working very hard. And so we didn't really go on holidays and, we didn't really have a lot of money. So for me, I kind of wanted to do something different and kind of, from a generational standpoint in being able to create a platform for my kids and their grandkids, or their kids, which will be my grandkids, when they go to buy a home or go to buy a car, or when they get married, that we've got the finances to potentially invest in that and help them along the journey. So, obviously it's not going to be a handout. They've got to work for it and be appreciative of it, obviously. But, just being in a position where we can do that, and just really see like them win, flourish, in their life. So, for us, it's more so just than the now. It's also about, kind of what we leave behind for our kids. And I think most people would like to think that as parents, that they would like to be able to do everything they can for their kids and set them up, to win in the long term. And so, for us, that's another thing that we've got in our mind in regards to the decisions that we make, not just now and being able to, fulfill what we want to do, but then also how do we ensure that later on we can enjoy our lives, but we can also help them in different, financial situations as well.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. Generational education and creating generational change is something that I'm particularly passionate about, and there's nothing better than being able to help the next generation get ahead. That's awesome. That's really powerful. Another question for you. What would you say that you are most grateful for in this journey?
Oh, it's a very interesting question. What am I most grateful for? I think probably throughout the journey, the thing I'm probably most grateful for is probably it helping me to understand the importance of wealth and the importance of wealth generation. Grateful for understanding the I guess the powerful tool that it can be. And so, it's probably been the journey of understanding, having more wisdom and knowledge in my own finances now, which I'm probably more thankful for, as where beforehand, just doing the day in, day out kind of 9 to 5, although enjoying what I'm doing. Now probably more grateful for this journey because it's taught me so much more about how to handle my finances better as we get into our budgets, how to, plan for the future, how to strategize, and then also, as I said before, kind of really leverage around, okay, well, what do we want for our kids' future and what does that look like? And so it's really kind of helped me to kind of hone in, and my wife as well, about how we can probably be better parents and, be, I guess, better siblings in our family as well, around how we can kind of help them out. So, I think I'm just probably more grateful for the way that it's helped me to understand, I guess, the power of wealth and what it can do. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And how you can, I suppose, be the best version of yourself so that you can then be, give back entirely to the people around you, whether they be the people that are in your family, the siblings, like you said, or your community. That's awesome. That's really beautiful. Okay. So what would you say some of the things that you've learned along the way that I guess really made a difference in your journey, or things that perhaps you wish you knew then when you started? Because obviously you didn't plan to buy this many this quickly, so quite a lot's changed for you. And you've talked a lot about the different things that you've learned.
Yeah, I think. There's probably a fair few things. I think the first one was probably just around the difference between having a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. So, there's, even for myself and for my wife, a lot of decisions that we make, we try and just make them because that's just what we've always done. And so in the property journey, it's really kind of helped me just to realize that I do have the power in the decisions that I want to make. And so, we do have probably a lot more control in our life than we probably realize at times. And so, kind of just being able to sit back and allowing the journey to, as I'm thinking about different steps and decisions I want to make, just realizing that, I've got a lot more kind of power and a lot more control than I think in regards to my future. But yeah, I think probably the other thing too would just be in regards to having, a plan for where we want to be. Because you can kind of get very stuck in the, as I said, the 9 to 5, just living throughout the week. And then, all of a sudden it's another year, another New Year's, another Christmas, family function, wherever it might be. But they're not really about, kind of where you want to be in the long term. And, I think the other thing too is realizing that there's so many different facets of property, but then also different elements that you learn along the way that can kind of really help you. Like I had no idea about depreciation or negative gearing or PYG variations and all this kind of stuff that as you immerse yourself into, it actually makes you realize that investing in property is not as hard as what you think it is. Once you understand all the different things and work with your accountant and work with your financial advisor, and I'd say probably the biggest one is just around having the right team. So kind of when I started, it was just me and my mortgage broker really just kind of saying, hey, look, I want to refinance my house to get a better mortgage rate. And then, we got chatting about property and then kind of snowballed from there. And then as I've gone through the journey, I've realized actually I need a great accountant. I've been doing my own taxes. And so, having an accountant there to look at, the numbers and what that looks like, and then financial advisor to create a plan. And then some people that I can bounce off, to learn what they've done in property as well. So I think just having the right people around you and the right voices is probably the main thing, because, a lot of things, the markets and what's out in the world will tell you that there's all doom and gloom. But when you actually look hard enough, and, stop listening to those voices, then you'll find that, there really is opportunity, not only just investing in property, but to be able to make your own choices in life. So
yeah, fear sells, and that's what we are flooded with in the outside market with information, and it can be really overwhelming. So yeah, it sounds like growth mindset, having the right team, those kind of things have really helped you, which is awesome. I think it is hard to find the right team in this space, like, the right accountant, the right broker, the right this of, but yeah, it makes all the difference to the confidence and the decisions that you make. So that's awesome. Okay. What advice would you give to somebody sitting on the sidelines now, unsure if property is right for them, or, maybe a little bit scared, and they're sort of battling with that fear and the negativity that they might hear in the outside market or in their social networks? What would be some advice you'd give?
Yeah, I think probably touched on it before, but just find the right voices. Just find the right people that can speak into kind of where you're at and what you want to achieve. And through that, you'll end up, developing a plan in regards to kind of where you want to be financially with property, and then finding the right team. But I think speaking to people who have gone through the property journey and understanding, a lot more around how the process works, and, not getting immersed in, the conversations around, the barbecue at Christmas where someone's telling you what you should do and how you should invest and what you should do. As I said before, like, your financial future is a lot more in your control than you think. And so probably searching for wisdom and for knowledge, just immerse yourself in podcasts, immerse yourself in reading books, understanding more about property and how it works, and then just finding the right team and the right people and just seeing what you can do. Because I don't think I've ever met someone who said to me, I wish I hadn't have invested in property 12 months ago. If I look at my own journey now, I'm glad that I made that decision, and that, I was probably a little bit more bullish in taking our family on that journey. And now in that 12-month period, we've kind of set ourselves up really well from a foundation perspective. And now we can kind of really launch into the next phase. And then, I think just working with the right people, because there's so many different things you can do, even from a tax side, from a financial advisor side. So you may on paper think that, you might not be able to invest in property because it doesn't work, whether it's equity or cash flow. But then working with those people to go, hey, look, here's where we're at. What can we potentially do? And then just work within your means, because, when you're investing in property, whether you're buying something that's 300 or whether you're buying something that's 600,000, it's all dependent on where you're at in your own journey. And so, once you get in, that's the hardest thing, is to really just to get started. And then once you get started, as you said before, like the ball kind of gets rolling, and you just start to understand more along the journey. So
interesting. I like that. One of the big things that I've really learned from you today is to be curious and manage the fear with logic, with information, and with data. So yeah, it sounds like that's been something that's really helped you. One thing that you mentioned, and you've mentioned it a couple of times, is about having a plan and the difference that's made for you. In terms of the plan when you started, sounds like maybe it's changed and evolved. And by the sounds of it, and honestly, in my experience, I've changed as an investor in my 15 years, and I think I will continue to change. But what does the plan look like for the future? What's next? Obviously thinking of selling your principal place of residence, but your 3 properties already. Do you sort of feel like you've done the property investment job now? We're just going to sit back? Yeah.
So as I said earlier, the idea of having a plan is pretty pivotal, because you don't know, where you're heading unless you know your destination. And so for us, we've had our plan, and we've kind of planned that we wanted to buy 5 properties by 2030. And so that was kind of our goal, and that'll shift depending on, what we can and can't do financially, but that's kind of our main goal. And now we're kind of at the point where, based on different constraints around cash flow and equity, we're kind of like, well, and our kids being in school and different things in the season we're in, we're like, well, how do we continue to keep that journey going forward? And part of that is, okay, well, do we keep our principal place of residence? Because one of the things I've learned over the journey is the power of rent vesting. And a lot of people probably think that, renting and then is kind of dead money, which is totally not, the right concept, because, if you're able to invest your money somewhere else and still live in where you want to live and live in a nice house, then you're kind of getting best of both worlds. And so yeah, as part of that idea is we're kind of using the rent vesting strategy to look at, okay, how do we then sell our principal place of residence? Because then that helps us to increase our borrowing capacity. It helps us to then invest in a different area where we're getting better growth and better yield. And so then we may be able to turn that principal place into 1 or 2 different investments, depending on, where we land, which then in turn might mean the next 12 months is another crazy cycle. But once again, it just depends on, where you're at and where we're at, and then going from there. But it's been, once again, an emotional decision. That's where we raised our kids, and we're kind of like, Dad, we don't want you to sell that house. That's where we grew up and everything like that, which is a bit sad. Coming back to it, that's where I have the end goal in mind. Like, what are we trying to achieve? That's to help us financially and to help them. So that's kind of what drives our decisions, even though sometimes they might be hard. And so, yeah, we're literally putting that up for sale in the next couple of weeks.
Awesome. Cool. So you mentioned 5 properties. I'm assuming that 5 properties isn't just a number that you thought, oh yeah, 5, that'll be good. I'll get there, and I've achieved that number. I'm imagining that that's quite a particular strategic number that's actually going to get you to your end goal and where you want to be. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So when we did our investment portfolio strategy around where we want to be, and really creating enough passive income so that, you don't necessarily potentially have to work in, 10, 15 years time. We can maybe volunteer more. We could do other different things. But that was kind of the number where we landed based on the projections of growth and and rental yields and kind of thing. So as I said, that number is at the moment and that could change. And we're able to be aggressive at the moment, but at some stage it'll end up being capped, and then we've got to wait until other constraints kind of free up. But we're working towards the investment plan that we have, and so without that, we could just buy certain properties at certain prices, and we could kind of just fumble our way through it. But now we kind of know that, okay, these are the properties we need to buy. This is the expected growth we're hoping for. If we have these certain, rental yields, then we can look at when do we buy the next one and where. And so without that plan, it's kind of, just like going for a walk in the dark without a flashlight. So
yeah, sounds like every decision you've made to now and every decision that's a part of the plan is informed, strategic, and from what you've just said to me, you feel really confident. Well, you sound really confident about where it's going and what's happening in every decision. You're sort of in the middle, right? Looking back on where you've got to here to there. There's a lot of confidence that's coming out of what you're saying. And I suppose that is what happens when you do have the plan. And like you said, you've got the light sort of leading you there. I often say to people that whatever your long-term plan is, a portfolio has to work out, or it has to complement the needs in your life long-term and where you're trying to get to, but then also in the short term as well. And sounds like sort of everything that you're deciding even right now is this is what I'm willing to give up short term for XYZ, or for some people maybe it's the opposite. This is what I'm not willing to give up, and that will sort of determine the speed at which you get there. All right, my final question for you, Ben, on this topic: what does success look like for you long term? Because it sounds like there's a passive income plan at the end of your portfolio growth plan. That's where you're trying to get to. What does life look like when you get there? What are you able to do? What's successful?
Probably just play golf full time. That'd probably be it. I'm a big golfer.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, but look, I think just coming back onto what you said before, I mean, the fear's always there. When I'm making decisions or when we're making decisions together, there's always fear. And I think fear is a healthy thing, because without that, you would just make decisions and end up in a bad place. So, but it's just being able to manage that fear by taking, informed risks. So looking at, what are the risks in regards to these decisions, and then how do I mitigate those risks if they go wrong? And it kind of removes, the fear from there. But I think when it comes to success, for me, I think it's just creating a lifestyle where I could just continue to enjoy the journey. That's success for me. So, part of that is success now in regards to, us with our 2 kids and in love and life and what we do. And then part of that success is being able to see, as I said before, being able to see them flourish and be in a better financial position to see them buy their first home, get married, have kids. And so, a lot of people kind of think success is, when I get to the stage of having, 10 properties, or when I get to the stage of having that car or having that home, whatever it might be, then I'll be happy. But I think for me, success is defined about just being content along the journey. And then, as I said, just really having a lot more flexibility in life to be able to do different things that we might want to do and travel and things like that. I think, once we, are able to, look back and look at the journey that we've been on, I hope that we'll get to the end and realise that we've been able to help some people on the way and set up our family for the long term.
Amazing. That's awesome. I absolutely love all of that. If I'm honest with you, Ben, I think success is something that you're actually delivering right now. You're already working in the not-for-profit space, and to me, you're already executing on what's important to you. So congratulations. And once again, thank you so much for joining me here today. I have absolutely really enjoyed hearing your story and the different approaches that you've taken. So yeah, thank you very much again.
No worries, Ali. It's been a pleasure. And yeah, thanks for having me on. And I hope, what I've shared today just encourages someone in their journey.
Yeah, I am absolutely sure that it will. That's exactly what it's about, sharing it with everyone. So yeah, once again, thank you.
No worries. Thanks.